Alright, this one's going to be interesting for sure, since I wasn't really even sure what this game was for a long time. I knew of its existence, courtesy of the animated series that ran on the Foxbox TV lineup, but by the time I was even watching that, I was really only tuning in for the 2003 Ninja Turtle series and signing off immediately after. So I never saw the show, and I had only heard about the games in passing, courtesy of it having been done by Rare. And if we're being perfectly honest, I find Rare highly overrated. Sure, I did play GoldenEye at my friends' houses, and that was fun, and I enjoyed the new Battletoads mostly because they focused on making it an actual playable game this time, but honestly, I was never that big on Donkey Kong Country, for instance, outside the ridiculously cheesy French-produced TV series, and I find the excessive hype placed upon them as a whole to be a bit much. So out of sheer curiosity, I took a look at this because some other YouTubers I like mentioned it in passing, and I wanted to see what the fuss was all about, and yeah, turns out I'm a complete, absolute, utter moron. Viva Piñata is a strange, eclectic, but wholly original take on lifesim games, and I am such an idiot for not checking it out sooner. So that's what we'll be doing today. Join me for a closer look at Viva Piñata, Trouble in Paradise. Greetings everyone, this is the hipster Snek, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 2008 Xbox 360 title Viva Piñata, Trouble in Paradise. To be exact, that Trouble in Paradise subtitle signifies this is the updated re-release, and more of an expansion upon the previous game, simply titled Viva Piñata, and not technically a full-bore sequel. However, because of this, I'm saying it counts towards our spin-off theme this year, so let's dive on in. Now, I confess, as I mentioned in the intro segment, that I am approaching this from a place of ignorance rather than intimacy, unlike the other games that I picked out for this month. But after chugging away at it for several hours, I feel I have a decent enough beat on things. Anyway, the story begins proper with these strange villainous piñata guys called Sour Piñatas. And as an aside, I love that name. I can't even fully articulate why, I just think it's perfect for this set and theme. The big boss of these Sour Piñatas guffaws and explains that his plan is hijacking all the data found in a central Piñata database, and then in turn using the information found therein to exploit all the weaknesses of the Piñatas found on the island. However, his henchman, or hench Piñata, ends up making a mistake and instead just deletes the entire database. Considering their heist a success in its own special way, the Sour Piñatas take off, leaving the island worse for wear. Then, control of the garden is handed off to the player. See, piñatas are native to this nameless island we call home for the duration of our stay, as they are wild animals that somehow inhabit this land. Video games have asked me to accept weirder premises, so I choose to think on this no further. Anyway, the pleasantly voiced assistant lady, who I am genuinely unsure if she is also a piñata or just a lady in a mask, gently guides the player through some basic steps to making the garden more appealing for wild piñatas. See, when conditions are met, wild piñatas will move into the garden in order to call it home. See, while they can survive in the wild, piñatas prefer to thrive on well-to-do gardens, and some are more picky in terms of their habitats than others. For example, in an early game mission, you abduct a desert-dwelling piñata from its home, and make it more comfortable in the garden by introducing enough sand for it to call it good enough. In fact, these missions end up acting as a conduit to figuring out the end goal of being someone who oversees and protects the wild piñatas, to fill up their candiosity and send them off to their primary entertainment at parties. This is both hilarious and macabre in ways that I lack the words to adequately describe. This information in mind and a few basic tools to get us started, we enter into owning our own personal garden. And to start, it looks amazing. There's an interesting artistic touch where wild piñatas are all washed out in gray until they decide to call the garden home. Then they suddenly become flush with color. It takes a simple facet of how piñatas in the real world are actually designed in order to give these creatures this really creative flourish that I'm not sure I've seen another life sim do in similar vein. The overall design is somewhat minimalistic, as there is no player avatar, so your actions are represented by a mobile red and white cursor. There's also a multiplayer mode, but seeing as how I don't have friends, I don't know what this looks like in execution. I assume other colored cursors? The piñatas themselves are cute, with large eyes and rounded designs, with textures resembling the strips of paper, acting as the layers and add a sense of depth and feel to the piñatas. And before you ask, yes, There is a Snake Piñata, and you can find it fairly early in the game. Yeah, I call that a win. The non-Piñata, or the characters that I am blindly guessing aren't Piñatas since that raises more questions I don't really want to explore, characters serve as the town that you're operating within. You have your obligatory and mechanical checklist of options, including a quest giver, a guy who builds houses and buildings, a lady who assists when piñatas lay eggs, yes, piñatas lay eggs, stop asking questions, and more colorful weirdos, all of whom want to help you out in return for nominal fees. And of course, there are sour piñatas, who are usually colored intense, garish reds and have sharp, angular faces and distinct sounds to call their own, who you can dismiss with a quick whack of your shovel. Speaking of sounds, I really like the sound design as well. The overall musical tracks usually are a score of ambience, depending on day-night cycle, and it's all very relaxing. Most of their cues tend to be musical stings when something happens, usually to command the player's attention that status quo has somehow been altered, usually when a new piñata is spotted or entered the garden. It's effective use of the soundscape without becoming intrusive. So, not too much to say other than I like it. The sound effects are delightfully cartoony, staying decidedly in the slapsticky kind of inspiration. Striking someone, like passerby CDOS, with the shovel is treated as a silly moment of comic mischief, rather than tremendous show of force. And the sounds the piñatas themselves make are cute and endearing, and mercifully they don't talk. I'm not sure what I'd do if they actually did express themselves as such, given what I need to talk about next anyway. That said, most of the playtime is spent either in the main garden, of which you can have more than one since the max number of piñatas found in the game is greater than that can be held in one garden, or in the town menu, or one of the action fields to capture wild piñatas that are adapted to the different climates. As said, you don't have a proper representation for yourself, but you can equip numerous tools like shovels or watering cans in order to tend to the garden, and most actions from there end up being fairly intuitive. It's clear what is what, and the relationship between items is logical by and large, once you figure out some nuances, how, like, repeated strikes with a shovel can break up stone into usable soil. From there, it's straightforward enough, such as speaking to an NPC, in this case we'll use our example with CDOS again, will cause him to share his seeds with you, which you can then plant to grow flowers and crops in your garden. Then, you can make some flowers drop their blooms by tapping them with a shovel, and control the growth rate of crops by watering them whenever they get dry. As you cultivate the garden, more piñatas will move in, and you can solve problems by accepting quests to meet certain piñata-themed problems. See, piñatas, as they grow and eat and become happier, fill up their candiosity. Yes, seriously, this is exactly what it sounds like. And dream of being sent off to a party. We do this via canon delivery service and not needing to be present for the end result. In fact, if a particular piñata population is getting out of control, you can call the herd with a rather brutally efficient wielding of your shovel to smash the piñata open and reveal the candy inside. There's no two ways about this. This game is absolutely insane and weirdly dark at times. But I think that adds to the charm. It does show that life can have its dark moments, but it does downplay that a bit given that we're dealing with living piñatas. Not sure if I made that clear or not. Because ultimately, as a lifesim game, getting piñatas to move into your garden and breeding them and raising them, trying to refill the piñata database that was destroyed is the ultimate goal. This includes getting piñatas to move in, breeding them, which is a task unto itself because after you meet these prerequisites for the loving couple, you build them a little love shack, whereupon they do the romance dance. And when I first saw this sequence, I legit had to set my controller down and just cackle maniacally. It's beautiful. Afterwards, you get this mini-game where you race against the clock to get as many hearts as you can and then to the piñata's mate as fast as you possibly can to see if they overcome the hurdles in their way in order to form an egg. And then you need to watch out for various sour piñatas who want nothing more than to steal or eat the eggs, seeds, and yes, sometimes even full-grown piñatas living in your garden. So you'll be serving as the garden's keeper and sole vigilant guardian. And yeah, that's basically the game. You build it up, take on missions, bring wild piñatas in, oftentimes sacrificing them for missions or in order to get other piñatas who happen to be piñatavores, I guess, and capturing wild piñatas and forcing them to feel at home, all in the name of breeding, raising, and protecting them in your own little piñata theme park. And as I sat down to practice with the game to come to get to know it better for this review, I absolutely fell in love with it. It was so bizarre and alien, yet familiar and comfortable. I was completely captivated by this beautiful, colorful world full of strange yet natural creatures who just so happened to also be piñatas. I was fully on board with this, and having a relaxed-paced game I could advance at my pace and tend to my little garden, it was just an amazing feeling. And I was astounded that I missed out on this amazing game all this time. And I learned, while researching this game, there are even a newcomer-friendly mode with things like simplified recruitment prerequisites and no sour piñatas, and this is always a nice bit that I get to end the review on because the game is still accessible, albeit only on Xbox One and Xbox Series X consoles, courtesy of the rare Replay compilation title. Now, if I could work my will, I'd prefer a Steam release for PC-side players, but hey, this is better than the title being dead and gone forever. Come on, Microsoft, how about a sequel or at least a port of Trouble in Paradise? This game absolutely deserves it, and so many people have slept on it like me who want the chance to try it. PC port? Definitely. All want it. You'd make a lot of money, you'd give Rare something to do again, which would be a big change in pace as of late from what I've seen. But if you are an Xbox owner, hey, get it for yourselves. It's worth the cost of admission all on its own. And that's a final word on this obscure game. This has been the Piñata Snek. And if you liked today's episode, hit the like button so I know. Leave a comment. Did you play this game before today, or did I introduce you to it? And for more like this each week, hit the subscribe and bell icons too. It helps the channel out a lot, and you can make sure that you'll never miss a single one. I upload 5 days a week with game reviews, Let's Play, Snek Tech, and the new home of the Tomodachi Bro Season 2 coming soon. Join me here, won't you, for all this and more to come, and I will see you there.